All right. It looks like we're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm here with a lot of members of Team SPI, and we are here for the Smart Tank. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is our second time going through this. We'll have to pop in a link to the first one because the first one is so much fun. But I'd love to, first of all, introduce our lovely Jillian here to say hello and tell us a little bit about what this particular challenge entailed and who participated.
Thank you so much, Pat. For anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Jillian. I'm the Senior Community Manager at SPI, and I run a little thing called SPI Pro. If you're not familiar, SPI Pro is our paid membership for entrepreneurs looking to connect with each other and just kind of, get their business going or advancing, if you will. And every month, Pat hosts an AMA, but also a challenge for all the members. And last year, our Smart Tank was so amazing. We decided this was going to be an annual thing. Last year, it was a 60-second, kind of like an elevator pitch, like, what's your business? And Maria Fila, I cannot say your last name, Maria Fila, help me.
Maria F.
I have the same trouble. I feel like Tony, our resident Italian, can help us better.
Tony.
Yeah.
No
Maria
pressure.
Faya.
Hey. Oh, thanks, Noun. I made them on my Glowforge. Okay, so Maria with the garden party won last year, and her big prize, if you listened, I think was 459, somewhere in there, episode 459 of the Smart Passive Income podcast. So this year, Pat asked to do another video, but this time it was the 60-second transformation video challenge. Mm-hmm. And it was all about telling a story about a customer that person had helped. And yeah, so here we are.
Yeah, I mean, the whole actually inspiration from this, I got to give credit to where credit is due. Stu McLaren. Stu McLaren's a good friend of ours and a good friend of mine, and he helps people with membership sites and such. And whenever I hear him on a podcast, whenever I hear him speak on stage, he tells such amazing stories about his own students. And they always relate to some sort of objection that everybody in the audience has. And it just allows us to resonate and relate a little bit more to not just the problem, but also the solution, which is, his stuff. And in this case, it's the solution that the SPI Pro member is offering their audience. So we wanted to really, in a way, challenge people in SPI Pro to come up with a 60-second story, just nothing fancy, turn on the camera, tell the story about somebody in your audience who's gone through a transformation to, as sort of a byproduct, promote your own stuff. And so we want to have all of you do more of that. And that's something that we at Team SPI are going to lean into even more because it just has such a powerful way. In fact, your audience does a much better job of selling your stuff than you can in most cases. So that's the whole idea behind this. Really quick before we reveal, we're going to start with 5th place, 4th place, 3rd place, 2nd place, and then 1st place. 1st place winner is going to get a spot on the SPI podcast in 2022, which is going to be a huge thing and huge deal. It's going to be really fun. I have a list right in front of me, but I do want to have the other team members here quickly introduce themselves. So why don't we go with Jay to my right here on the screen. How are you, Jay?
Hey,
welcome
everybody.
In.
I'm well. Thanks for having me on here, Pat and Jill. This was one of my favorite events of the past year, the first Smart Tank. So I'm really excited to see the submissions we have here today. My name is Jay. I'm on the CX team at SPI as well, working with Jill and Known and Tony. Tony, how about you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Jay. I'm Tony Machipalupo, a community program manager. I help run boot camps and big events like the Audience Driven Summit that we just did. And I also do the Community Experience podcast with Jill.
Love it. Who do you want to pass it to?
I'm passing the rock to Ray.
Hey, thanks, Tony. I'm Ray. I'm on the production team, so I work on some of our podcasts. I'm the co-host of Flops, and as well as our blog. And this is my first Smart Tank, so I'm really excited. I got a chance to see all the submissions, and yeah, was pretty blown away. So just glad to be here. I will throw it to, I guess, Jonathan.
Yeah, that's me. I'll round it out. I am Jonathan. I'm SPI's product marketer, so working mostly in the realm of our website, but also working closely with Pat and our affiliates, which will be a great band name. But working with Pat and affiliates for both marketing, but just in general, a lot of the emails that you see and read, and connecting with our audience to get stories from them that ultimately come back to you all. So yeah, it's great to be here, and also my first Smart Tank.
Amazing. And we also have Known from our team who's in the chat on YouTube, and we see a lot of other fellow SPI Pro members there as well, and even non-SPI Pro members. And if you are interested in SPI Pro, we do have an application process. We'd love for you to apply to see if it's a right fit for you. If you go to smartpassiveincome.com/pro, that's where you can go to learn more about it and apply. And we're going to be inserting another cohort here very soon, and we'd love to welcome you in. So we'll talk more about that later. We got Michael, and Jess is here as well, my amazing executive assistant. She's in the chat as well. Louis, Evie in the house, Michael Shore. This is amazing. This is Traveling Wallet. Welcome in, everybody. So why don't we not wait any further? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully when I do that, I won't reveal like all the winners up, right at the top. I don't want to do that. That would ruin the whole thing. So I'm going to go over here. And I believe that while doing this, I can share the sound, which we definitely want to do. So I'm going to hit share. You should see a DeLorean on the screen. Could I get a thumbs up from the team just to make sure? Okay, good. So I'm going to hit enter because I have the link for our 5th place winner here. And we're going to watch this video, and then we're going to just talk about it a little bit, and we'll move on to the next one after that. So this is our 5th place winner from our submission.
Eric is a single father.
Let me go one more time.
Let me tell you a story about Eric Hillard. Eric is a single father who was morbidly overweight and physically out of shape, suffering from low self-esteem, on the verge of becoming a diabetic, and sizing himself out of clothes in even the big and tall section of stores. He knew something had to change. His turning point came when his small son went running down the driveway towards oncoming traffic, and he realized he couldn't move fast enough to save him, despite being just 10 feet away. Luckily, his son was fine, but Eric was not. This is when he joined First in Nutrition, and over the course of his journey with the First in family has lost over 100 pounds and found a level of fitness and confidence he never knew he could have. He changed so drastically, both physically and mentally, that he chose to embark on a new career path in order to better serve others. This led him to the police academy, and he is now an active duty law enforcement officer. Being part of the First in family allowed Eric to follow his dream of becoming a public servant and know without a shadow of a doubt that he could be there for his son no matter what. He saved his own life, not just for himself, but for his family and for others as well. Are you ready to change your life like Eric? Are you ready to be first in?
Wow, literally getting goosebumps like listening to that. Jay, what are your first impressions on listening to that? I see your reaction.
Wow, just powerful. Like it was really easy to follow the narrative of that story and relate to it and be like, oh gosh, yeah, that would be so challenging. And then to hear the actual results that he got, lost more than 100 pounds. That's so much. That's incredible.
Yeah, so congratulations to our 5th place winner, Jonathan Montgomery. Beautiful storytelling. It was obviously hard. It's hard to fit in a real transformation within 60 seconds, but he did it very, very well. And I love how he tied it into a personal story. Very important here, when you're telling stories about your audience here, it can be very easy for you to start with how you helped them. That is actually the second part of the process. We want to talk about the struggle or the transformation, in this case, something very life-changing. So something just to keep in mind. Tony, what was your reaction to Jonathan's quick little story here?
Yeah, I think that it's just so great when people are facing things that could otherwise kind of hide in the shadows. There's a lot of people who are just dealing with things that they might feel some shame or some resistance around, and bringing that into the light and, getting help to make a life transformation with support is just so powerful. And we need a lot more of that in the world.
Definitely. This is the power of pulling these stories out. And Jonathan on our team and I are working really hard to pull more of these stories out of SPI. Might you have any tips, Jonathan, for everybody watching as far as, well, if we are helping people, how do we actually capture those stories best? What would your advice be?
Yeah, capturing stories, as Pat and all of us have agreed that it's very powerful. It's important. It helps drive sales, but it also is a great way to bring the voice of your customer to the rest of your audience. We use some great platforms internally, whether it be through Typeform, whether it be through Video Ask, which is a platform where you can engage face-to-face with your audience. Email is another great way, just kind of reaching out to them directly. There's a lot of really amazing ways to engage with your audience through to gather testimonials. And obviously, you know, it's a continual process. You just don't settle on one and only stick with that. You continually meet your audience where they are, and engage with them how they prefer, whether it be through voice, whether it be through written, whether it be through video, and kind of gather the story that they have to share, when they want to share it and how they want to share it.
Yeah, all the formats are great. Obviously, video can be the most powerful, and you can take that audio, put it into a podcast to help promote your own stuff as well. One recommendation I would have would be very clear with where that transformation happens for a person, and it's at that very moment that you can try to get on a conversation with them, and maybe get on a Zoom call and just hit record if that's possible, or connect with them on Instagram and have them reply with a video telling about, well, how are they feeling right now, right in that moment. Try to get that. This is why in a lot of our courses, at the end of the course, we often ask people when they submit their thing or they finalize their work there, to reply to us and let us know how it went and tell us what has happened since. And you know, those are the moments to capture, because that's when it's right on top of their mind and when they're feeling the most energized. So awesome. Well done, Jonathan. We're going to move over to fourth place now, with Chris Tilley. Let's watch him. Congratulations, Chris. Oh, we might want to share the screen though. That's my fault. All right, here we go.
Who is never told to lift for? So to answer that, I'm going to tell you about Mike. Mike is in his late 60s. He's always been really active, loves trail running, skiing, mountain biking. He's got 4 grandchildren. But recently he started to question whether he might be a little bit too old to be doing these things because of aches and pains that he's got. In January of this year, he found the Never Told to Lift ebook. He went through the 8-step process, identified some goals and motivations that he could build a program around. And 7 months in, he's still going strong. But more importantly, he's back to all those activities that he couldn't do. So he's now trail running without any knee pain. And he's just told me he's got back from a bouncy castle party with his 4-year-old grandson. And he wasn't just sitting on the sidelines, he's getting involved, and he had a great weekend. So that is who Never Told to Lift is for. So if you're finding that you're not able to enjoy all the things that you want to be able to do, but you really want to look forward to an active future, then strength training might help you do that. So if you want to learn more, go to nevertoldtolift.com, take a look around. And if you have any questions, please send me a message.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Jillian, what strikes you about Chris's story there?
I just love Chris. So I think one of the things, I mean, it's a great story because you can picture it, right? Especially for those of us getting a little older and, you know, staying far away from the camera so you can't see the details of that aging. Just knowing like that whole concept of being able to go in the bouncy castle with your grandchild, like, oh, that's everything, right? Mm-hmm. But also just that, you know, at the end, there's the call to action. Like, if you have questions, let me know. Like, he's just very inviting. And so it feels really like, yeah, you know, if I want to connect with this person and their business, they care about me, not just about making, you know, me paying them money. So I really like that. I also just love that his target audience is people that you don't always see in the fitness community being targeted. Like, he really cares about helping people continue to stay active and mobile. And that's just sweet.
I think he also has the advantage of having that accent. That's, yeah. You know, that's something I wish I could do just kind of on the fly. Ray, what were your initial thoughts on Chris's story there?
Yeah, I think Jillian really covered a lot of it. Yeah, as someone who's getting a little older, I'm not in my 60s yet, but starting to, you know, I can resonate too with some of those aches and pains. And so I think, yeah, the personal transformation that Chris kind of detailed in that story is really compelling. Yeah, no, you know, he kept it tight, and yeah, I really just appreciated that story. So
I love that. He also started out with a question, just sort of for everybody to think about, mm-hmm. right? And then he went right into a story. And again, this is the difference between perhaps you're pitching your product and you just might say, hey, do you get back pains? I'm just like reminded of that I Love Lucy episode with Vegemite or whatever it's called in that. Anyway, do you have back pains? Do you wish you could stay, you know, with your grandkids as you get older? Like, that's one way to do it. Or you can be like, hey, let me tell you about Mike. Like, he's just been struggling because he's worried about not keeping up with his kids. And in fact, this happened. And then he's like, well, after we started working together, guess what? Just the other day, he was in the bouncy house with his kids. Like, that story is so relatable, and you can kind of think about it in that way. And Jay, as a podcaster, I know that you do a really good job of pulling stories yourself on Creative Elements. What are some tips that perhaps you have when either trying to collect like legit testimonials like this, or maybe you were podcasting and you're interviewing somebody. How do you get a story like this out of somebody?
Yeah, well, I think what Chris did well with this story is he kind of said, like, before Never Too Old to Lift, here was reality. After, here's reality. Like, that's the best testimonial formula that I know. And what I share with people when they say, oh, I should ask for testimonials, how do I get those? And I say, just give them a prompt. Say, before product, before class, before experience, I was. Now after, I am. And that's a really great way to do it. But another couple things Chris did really elegantly was to say the specific product or interaction experience this guy had. He said, after he found the Never Too Old to Lift ebook. So now I'm listening to that. If I'm relating to this guy's experience and I want the same outcome, I know the mechanism as well.
It becomes such a much less aggressive sell, but more effective. Why would you not go down that direction? Right. Anybody have any other comments before we move on to our third place winner?
Just a quick one. I would say with the first video from Jonathan and then from Chris, it's interesting to see how different stories, but yet similar veins of kind of angles, is that family in a way inspired them to their audience rather to take action. That was the motivating factor that in turn led them down to engaging with Jonathan and Chris in ways. So yeah, it's interesting to see how family really is a motivational way to engage with your audience and using that as a method to kind of tell your story.
It's such a wonderful observation. And it makes me wonder if, for example, either of these two were to collect more stories and family becomes sort of a repeating pattern within that motivation. How might you then understand that for somebody who has yet to take advantage of an offer that you might have? How might you start to tap into their family? Maybe in coaching calls or sales calls, you might even begin to ask questions about that. Obviously being, not too aggressive with that. But anyway, that's a really great observation. Let's see if our third place winner also includes family in terms of motivation with this story. But I'm going to share my screen and then we will dive right into it. This one will be actually on Dropbox. So let me go to here, sharing sound, and this is Benjamin. Yay.
I am honored to share the story of Kim Yu. Kim felt torn because she wanted to serve her community in the most impactful way, and yet she felt stuck in her career because her current position limits her ability to serve big. Through my coaching and Kim's pure grit, she listened to all episodes of my Boom Vision podcast within one day, and in doing all the action steps, Kim transformed overnight. She called me the next morning. She's like, Ben, I finally slept through the entire night. I haven't been able to do that in the past 8 years, which is nuts. And her second transformation really touched my heart. Kim finally believes that she deserves to fully express herself, and she felt at peace with clarity and conviction why she's applying for the position of Deputy Fire Marshal, making her community a safer place to live and being present with her family. And guess what? She nailed her interview and she advanced to the final round. Are you ready to transform?
Wow. Who wants to go first on that one? That was great. Benjamin, congratulations to you.
I mean, I'll say the obvious: energy, great enthusiasm. And I feel like when you relate to the person you've helped transform on such a deep level, that's contagious as well.
You could tell he really cared about Kim. Right. And now I'm like using her name. Like I know, like, this is what happens. I'm just like, I feel like I could get behind Kim. I'm rooting for Kim. And that's the feeling that you want people to have when they hear these stories, is you want a person on the other end to, in a way, sort of root for this person. Right. They didn't feel like they could do it. And here we are. And now I want that same thing that gave her that energy. And that's, of course, Benjamin. And what's really cool about this wasn't a testimonial for like a product. It's just the podcast. Right. It makes me wonder, wow, if the podcast could do this, what services and other things that Benjamin could offer, what could that do for a person? Tony, do you have any thoughts kind of on this? Because energy within a community is your jam.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the story, when you're able to connect your own experience of helping people to the story that people have, the impact that you're having, it feeds on itself. Right? Like, you could tell that he feeds on the feeling he gets when he knows that what he's doing is making a difference. And when you're creating and you're putting yourself out there, you need to find ways to refresh your own motivation, keep yourself kind of, excited to keep coming back and doing the work. And so I just love that he's really got a strong feedback loop for that, and that he's sharing that with others. That's just going to keep being a good loop for him and for everybody else.
I noticed that he included, I think this was the first one that we've heard that included actual dialogue between the person telling the story and the person they're telling the story about. I thought that was really cool. It kind of brought me into that conversation sort of like as a fly on a wall, and it got me really excited. I noticed. Jillian, for anybody who's managing a community out there, whether it's a free community on Facebook, LinkedIn, or wherever, or even a premium one, how would you maybe initiate conversations to pull these stories out from a community? I mean, you could run a challenge like we did, right? Or how else might you consider engaging with a community to then collect these for about your product?
I mean, there's so many things. Definitely a challenge works, as everyone can see. A lot of the testimonials we get for SPI Pro, or even for our products, but from within Pro, is just paying attention to what people are posting. For example, Jason, I'm going to say the last name wrong again, Hauster, recently posted in SPI Pro about how he looked at his affiliate earnings and realized over the past few years he's made over $100,000 in affiliate earnings, and attributed that to 123 affiliate marketing, because that's how he learned how to do it. So he was providing a kind of a passive testimonial for one of our courses. So I was like, hey, can we use this as a testimonial? Which he said yes, right? And then we figured out where to keep that information. So some of it's just paying attention. Also just asking, just ask the community, like, hey, I'd love to share your stories on how, this community or this product impacted you. If you're comfortable, let me know, and just have a kind of an open invitation. But yeah, if you start talking about it, they'll start talking about it, and just pay attention to what people say.
It's as easy as that.
It's really simple.
But why do we try to overcomplicate these things sometimes, Jay?
Yep.
There's also just a lot of value in, when you show that you appreciate hearing stories like this. Someone tells a story and you say, look at the story from one of my clients or students or someone in my community. It's more likely that other people will follow suit and tell their story. And they feel like that's a welcome thing to add to the conversation, which is great for you as a creator as well. So sometimes it's kind of like a opening of the floodgates when you're able to tell the stories of people who've had good success.
I love it. And then Ray on our content team, who's in charge of a lot of the content we put on the blog. I mean, this is stuff that could insert itself into our written content, could it not?
Oh yeah. I mean, repurpose, right? Like, you get a testimonial, and yeah, there's a lot of ways you can put it to work, not just as the original video in this case, but you can drop it into a blog post. Think about shareability, and now you can use this great content, the social proof that your audience has given you, for sure. There's one other thing I wanted to just point out about this story that I really appreciated, was that Benjamin kind of shared two transformations. He mentioned the quick transformation that this person got right off the bat with the podcast, and got a full night's sleep, which I think helps create excitement for for what he's offering for his product or his podcast or whatever it is. But that's not all that he can do, or that his product or service can do. And so he mentioned the longer transformation, the more sustainable one that his student went through as well. So I thought that was a really important piece of the pitch, and made it very effective. So
I love that. Jonathan, were you going to add something?
Yeah. Just a quick comment, or more of an observation about Benjamin's story, is he focused on the story throughout the entirety of it. All too often, it's, let me tell you this quick story, and then I'm going to hurry up to get to my pitch. And he did an amazing job of just continuing the story throughout the entirety of the video and through the pitch itself. And they were kind of interwoven. So the pitch and the story are one and the same. And it's less about, let me, hurry up to get to what I want to sell you. And it's more about, let me tell you this story and the transformations, like what Ray mentioned.
Love it. Love it. Well, we are down to our final two, actually three, because we're going to offer an honorable mention after this one. But we are now to our second place. And this was, of course, Jillian, how were the votes casted? Just to clarify for everybody who's watching right now.
Yeah, so we had a deadline for people to submit their videos. And then after that deadline, I compiled all the videos and sent that to everyone in SPI Pro, and our staff had the opportunity to vote for their first, second, and third. And so I tallied all the votes, and here we are.
And here we are. And remember, first place gets a spot on the SPA podcast in front of hundreds of thousands of people next year, which will be really amazing. So let's share the screen. You will see Benjamin in just a second, but I have the link all ready to go. I just have to hit enter. And here is our second place winner.
I'd love to tell you a story about Tanner Simmons. He's a Protospiel Online alumni who, after several years enjoying tabletop games, felt the pull to create one of his own. And while he loved using his awesome illustration skills to build games, he had no other designers to talk to and felt he was hitting a ceiling on what he could do on his own. In March of 2020, a group of designers Tanner lived a couple of hours from moved their playtesting meetings from in-person to online using Discord and Tabletop Simulator. These new friends invited Tanner to Protospiel Online, where he was able to playtest and get feedback from lots of new people, and even found that many testers were asking to play the game again. With this proof that players liked the game, Tanner felt emboldened to pitch the idea to a publisher. He found a company with a catalog his game fit neatly into and submitted his pitch through their online portal. Within just a few weeks, they got back saying they loved the concept and offered Tanner a publishing contract. He's thrilled to have his first game signed and looking forward to seeing it in stores soon. Do you have a game we could help test? We can't wait to see it.
So good. So good. So congratulations to Heather. Second place here. She was an honorable mention in our last Smart Tank, which is really cool. And that was very memorable because I remember her wall of just games behind her. I was like, oh, like the background changed a little bit. But other than that, like just such a great story that really brought me on a journey, right? And for people in this community that she's building, we know that people have games and ideas, but then can't really imagine, well, how does this even come to fruition? And here she is literally telling that story of what happened and connection, and the Protospiel being the sort of connector amongst to connect all that together, almost like the glue, which was really cool. Jillian, I know if you've gotten to know, and actually we met Heather recently, right?
We did, yeah. At our big team summit in Denver, all of us got to meet Heather at a happy hour we did with ourselves and a few local pros. And she is just amazing. She's a founding member. She was, as you said, she was an honorable mention last year, and she made the top 2 this year. So just super excited for Heather. And yes, that is one of many backgrounds she has that's just full of games. Like her house is just games everywhere.
I wonder what game night's like at her place. It's just
probably
like,
amazing.
Yeah, right. Who else wants to comment in on this one in particular? You know, that one thing to realize here is that you could tell that from all the 4 videos so far, all completely different camera qualities, all completely different energies, yet the stories are still great. And I think that that's something important to realize. If you are not maybe as energetic as somebody, or perhaps don't have the best equipment, you don't need any of that stuff. You just need to tell the story.
I could jump in here, Pat. This is less of a kind of a content summary, but as a former educator and working in education before working with SPI, I greatly appreciated the confidence that exuded from Heather, but also the pace at which she spoke. All too often when I started teaching, I would just speak so fast, and I would have to repeat myself more often than not. Students would ask me to repeat, and so that way they could catch up on notes. Heather, it was natural to her. She just spoke at a really fantastic pace, so that way the viewers can digest what she's speaking about and truly engage with the story that she's telling. So yeah, an excellent job for that.
Similar to your last point, Jonathan, she really focused on the transformation of the individual, and she mentioned Protospiel a couple of times at the key moments, but it was clear that the hero of the story was the person experiencing the transformation, and somebody who's listening to the story, like that's what they care about most. It's hard to come to terms with that as somebody who creates something that you care about so much and helps people, but somebody who listens to the story cares the most about do I empathize with this person's position, and did they achieve the outcome that I'm also looking for?
Yeah, that's great. I'm reflecting on the fact that I so easily remembered Kim's name from Benjamin's testimonial, right? Like, why? Why was that? And I don't think it was because of energy or camera or location. I think it was just because he used Kim's name like quite a few times, right? And I think that would be a smart thing to do. I think that's something we could do more of just not saying like, oh, and he this or she that or they this. I think it's Kim, right? And you just continue to say that. And, I got so excited for Kim, and I got, I think that could lend itself to like a cherry on top to add even more color and flavor to the story that you're telling. So Heather, wonderful job. Any other comments on Heather and her story?
Yeah, I want to just jump in real quick and say I just love what Heather's business does, because you're taking, I never thought that it would be possible that I could make a game. Like, I thought the Parker brothers had that down, right? So the fact that you can develop a game and then there's this community of people who will play it and test it out with you, and then it seems like, kind of help you get in front of the big game. I don't know what you would even call it, the game makers, and go from there. Like, it's just super cool. So the whole Tanner story is just amazing, and I'm excited for Heather.
Love that. I like big game too. That's a good use of that term. Very nice. Okay, so we have two.
I was going to jump in.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ray. Please, no, go ahead.
I just want to add on to what Jillian was saying. I think one of the cool things about that pitch too was that she didn't bop you over the head with what Protospiel does. You kind of almost read between the lines. But I got a real sense that like this is a place where you can kind of use the power of community to like, she used the word, she said, her student was hitting the ceiling what he could do on his own. So just kind of implying that like this was a place to come and build relationships and get feedback from others. And then he felt emboldened to pitch and have that confidence. So that the power of community and what Protospiel actually accomplishes or gives people was not like super explicit, but it still came through really effectively in the story that she told. So
I think she painted a picture of the pathway to the dream very well. Not all businesses or products have like the dream, but for a person making a game, like that's the dream, right? To have your game like be paid attention to and have people use it. And that process, that step-by-step iteration that Protospiel was sort of the glue behind was very apparent. So I love that. If I was making games, I'd want to follow that same path and use the same exact tools and get involved in the same exact communities. All right, so we have an honorable mention before we reveal our first place winner. If you're in the chat right now watching live, thank you again. I hope you're enjoying this. If you have yet to do so, hit a like and tell us how you feel and what testimonials so far that you have resonated with, or perhaps the biggest lessons you've taken away so far. Right now, we're going to go into an honorable mention, somebody that we definitely wanted to share because we really enjoyed the story that was being told. So let me hit share and we'll go in, and this one is on Loom, in fact, and here he is.
So one of our clients, Maria, is a 20-year veteran teacher, loves teaching, loves the craft, has a master's in education, but like a lot of teachers, found herself at the beginning of remote teaching being like, I'm not the tech savvy teacher. What am I going to do with like this whole like learning to teach with technology thing that I now have to do? And so she partook in the 21st Century Classroom Culture course that we offer that helped her figure out what tech she should use for her classroom and how to decide which ones and how to learn that tech and how to implement it and how to reach the goals that she was looking for in her classroom. And what she found is it actually ended up giving her so much more confidence that she doesn't have to be the tech teacher to learn new technologies, that she could actually offer her students what they need beyond remote teaching, beyond pandemic learning, that we live in the 21st century. These students need to be tech literate. She needs to be tech literate. And that's what it's going to take for her to continue to grow and excel in her profession as an educator and continue to love the work that she is doing. So that's a minute.
That was a good minute. That was a good minute. Who wants to go first on Tom?
I would say that what I think Tom has is a really good strength, and he could like, I bet on take 2, 3, 4 of this, he would be like definitely in the conversation for winner here because of his pacing. like what he did really well was change the pace at which he was delivering information in this story. Because every time you change your pacing, people lean in. So in the beginning, you know, he's kind of giving this background, he's kind of going quickly, and then he hit the point he was trying to make. And it just like brings you back into it. Which I just think, you know, that's an incredible skill to have if you're going to be telling stories and getting people to really lean in and hear the transformation that you're giving to people.
Yeah, that's advanced level storytelling sort of technique, right? With pacing and dynamics and voice. And he wasn't overly sort of, you know, loud or anything about that, but it's just slowing down, making those points hit even harder because of that. And then, you know, I loved how he just kind of used regular language, if that makes sense. Like, it was just very relatable. I don't know. Like, I felt like I was just in a room with him. He was like, yo, I got to tell you about my friend. Like, she like just doesn't like technology. Like, you can relate to that, right? It just felt very conversational. And I don't know why. It just did. And I really love that.
It's definitely a style that works for his personality. I'm sure if he tried to sit down and script something, he would have banged his head against the wall for hours and it would have been much harder.
Right.
Like in his mind, because I do this a lot too, where, you know, you almost picture you hit record and just imagine somebody's like, what was the deal with that person that you told me about? And then he just like picks up as if he was just in the middle of a conversation. And I love, you know, that he made it apparent, like he didn't try to overthink this. This is really coming out of his brain straight to the camera, even to the point where he's like, well, that's a minute. There you go. That's what you got.
Yeah, his storytelling was really great. Junaid and Maxine here are commenting on it as well. And Traveling Wallet says, I just love how playful he is. Like, he was the first person to really use his hands. I think Ben did also. He did kind of this sort of thing, but it perhaps maybe because he was holding the phone in one arm, and it was cool that he was talking about community, literally in his community. Tom was in his office, but he was using his hands in a very dynamic way as well. And again, it just got me really in tune with the story. Also, I noticed that, and again, I know I said that, you know, camera quality doesn't matter, but just it can help for sure. And I think in this case, like with, I don't know, just the like how close he was to the camera was perfect. The like glisten in his eyes. I don't know. There's something there was just something about the way everything was set up. It's so simple, but it was very powerful.
I think it's nice too when some. Oh, sorry, Jonathan. When somebody's
no, go ahead.
My bad. When someone's personality shines through so clearly, like Tom is just Tom. He's having fun with it. He wasn't trying to be anybody he's not. That's very much how he is if you talk to him in person. And I think that's so important, especially if you're trying to reach clients potentially. I know he does a lot of consulting. So if I were a teacher and I'm watching, I know his personality and mine, we vibe, like we're on that same wavelength. So I would immediately be like, yep, I want to work with him. And he's the person I want to come into my school and teach tech, you know?
For sure. I hope that he and everybody else and those of you watching get inspired by this to collect more stories like this and practice telling these stories. You don't need to record them. You don't need to submit them anywhere. Just tell them to other people, your family, your friends. Hey, I want to tell you about one of my students that came into the course today, and just share that with your spouse. Like, that would be an amazing way to practice this and to gauge the reactions and just to get better at that. It's like one of the, if not the most important thing in marketing is the way you tell the story about who it is you're serving.
That practice, Pat, is also so valuable because you see how it lands or doesn't land for people. And then you can kind of incorporate that into future storytelling to say, you know, like, well, when I use this analogy or when I talked about it from this angle, people's eyes glazed over versus, you know, people really lit up when I talked about it this way. And then over time, you just really refine that and get it tighter.
For sure. And again, another lesson here is just be you, be you. This is obviously who Tom is. We saw who Ben was. We saw Heather, and they were all themselves. And I think that's really important as you hit record, or maybe not hit record, but still tell these stories. Traveling Wallet says, I just thought about another story. I think recording is helpful, so I will record. Awesome. You might want to stick around because we're about to reveal our first place winner and somebody who we will reach out to very soon. Obviously, we have close contact with this person in SPI Pro, and we'd love to invite all of you into SPI Pro as well and apply and see if it is a right fit for you. Jillian, where can people go to learn more about Pro and and potentially get involved in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So smartpassiveincome.com/pro. I'm going to drop it in the chat momentarily. Pat caught me as I was muted and copying the link. And our next enrollment is November 26th, 8th, 20 something. So apply.
29th.
Yeah, 29th. So if you apply now, you have the possibility to get in the next cohort, our Q421 cohort, and we're going to have a ton of fun as we always do. So you can also, if you just want to email pro@teamspi.com. Do I have that right? I'm just firing on all cylinders today, y'all. Yes. That goes to me. So I'm happy if you have questions, shoot them over, and you can talk to me via email, and I'll hopefully be a little more eloquent because I can edit.
No, we're kind of multitasking right now for sure. So let's reveal our first place winner, and we'll talk about it, and then we'll call it a day. This will be a lot of fun. So here we go. I'm going to head over to screen share. If I can do this correctly. There we go. Screen share. Sound is on. Sharing. Here's Tom. I'm going to hit enter. And here we go.
Hey, Eric here with Altered Marriage, and I want to tell you about a couple that recently took our marriage masterclass. Mike and Ann have been married over 20 years, in and out of counseling the past few years, and when they came to the class, they said their marriage was distress, they had poor communication, little to no connection or intimacy, and they had given up hope on the relationship. Well, over the 6 weeks, they stayed consistent, they prioritized intentional times of communication and connection with one another, and they shared with each other and the group in ways that they hadn't in years. They recently emailed us and said this: the class was life-changing for us. Our therapist even noticed changes in our marriage and advised us we should take whatever classes you offer in the future. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I never get tired of hearing stories of hope restored to marriages again. So I don't know where you're at in your marriage or where you hope to be one day, but we'd love to join you in that journey.
Congratulations, first of all. That is Eric Wooten. Amazing story, and a little bit meta. There was like a testimonial in a testimonial, right? One from the therapist. Like that was super cool. I love that sort of second confirmation, right? Did you notice that? That was really cool.
It's like an endorsement within the testimonial. It's like advanced level technique there, Eric. I love it.
Yeah, that was really great. I mean, the language that was used was very relatable to somebody who is in this target audience, right? A married couple. I am married, and it very much resonated. And to hear those words like distressed and other things like that, these are all words that this target audience would use with each other in a time when they might need some help. And then what was really cool is he got very specific about his program without being very specific about his program, which I thought was really cool too. Like they worked with us for 6 weeks. And I was like, oh, this is a 6-week program. Okay. Like I get it.
In the group as well. He said with us and in the group. And I was like, okay, so there's a group component to this.
Yeah. Yeah. What else stuck out to anybody here? We'd love to just unpack this a little bit, because it was, it wasn't like the most energetic one. It wasn't but it won. It was the highest voted. Why do you think that is?
I was just going to say, go ahead, Tony.
Go, Ray. Go for it.
All right, I'll go. Yeah, I mean, he shared a quote unquote life-changing transformation. And anytime a student or a client tells you that you changed their life, like that's great raw material there for a pitch. So, that right there, I think was very useful and helpful. But, you could also tell that Eric was working from a script, but his delivery was so relaxed and he was so comfortable and he knew this story so well that like you didn't mind. Like he's a good orator and that he sounded comfortable. It was not that it was no big deal that he changed someone's life, but he just felt comfortable and grounded in his delivery of that story. And so I appreciated that.
Carefully hearing what Kirsten says, it was clear and straightforward. It was very clear, very straightforward. And by the way, Eric is in the chat right now. So Eric, congratulations to you. That's awesome. Tony, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything everybody said, right? The delivery was there. The subject matter, I think, makes so much. It's important to me. We talk a lot about it. Pat, it's on your t-shirt, serve first. And this is something hugely important. People's marriage, communication, relationships. This is territory where there's a lot of people who would benefit a lot from the right kind of education and guidance. And that just, it has a huge impact on people's lives. We need a lot more of it in the world. And speaking of t-shirts, he had the t-shirt too.
Yes,
So I could tell, like, this guy lives this. Like, you could tell he's more than happy to wear that shirt to the grocery store and have somebody strike up a conversation with him about it. He lives it, and you can tell that. And I respect that a lot. What a shirt too.
Stay married. It's gangsta.
It's such swagger to that.
I love it.
You don't see that every day. Love it.
You don't. I also felt like when I was listening, it was like, I was like, so what exactly did this couple do with you? Like, I know they work with you and there's a group thing, but like, I want to know more, right? That's what a good story makes you also want to do. When you tease a story like this, you want a person to go further. And I can imagine, Eric, since you're here, I could imagine you getting together with this couple and turning it into a little like documentary style transformation story that could be used in more full during a launch or just in your podcast or on your YouTube channel. There's a lot of things you could do with that. And I see you have a YouTube channel with 8,000 subscribers. It could live on there as well.
I also noticed in his description for the video, which is, I believe, an unlisted video that was shared within our community, he still took the time to put the URL and the offer in the description. Never miss an opportunity. I love it.
Yeah, I love that. Jillian mentioned that about someone else as well, with regards to the call to action being very important at the end there, especially at the end of your testimonial, end of your story. You've essentially earned permission at that moment to help people understand where they can go further. And he's got all the things in here. I mean, this is a proper YouTube sort of sign off or YouTube description situation going on. And if it's a public video, a little bit of a description as far as what the story is about or whatnot could go a long way too. But anyone else have anything to call out and share? And I was very glad that Eric was here to share this and witness this. And Eric, we'll reach out to you. We'll get in contact for a 2020 publication of some of you on SPI at some point, which would be super fun. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, Eric, Jess has your email. She's in the chat. She said she was going to wait till it was announced so there were no spoilers, but she'll be reaching out about the podcast. But I wanted to say congrats. I thought your video was excellent. Very clear messaging on what you do and how you can help and why you think it's important. And then, of course, with the messaging on the shirt, just to further kind of let people know, like, this is what we're doing. And I just, I put it in the chat, but I love your YouTube name, Relation Shots.
Yeah. So good. Thank you, everybody, for watching the second Smart Tank. This is super fun. We will put our heads together for a third round at some point, perhaps maybe not next year, maybe, or not next sort of like 12 months from now, because this last one was 12 months ago. So we'd love to do this more if you want us to do this more, because it's fun, it's challenging, and it's rewarding, and it helps the community get to know each other even more too. So we'll do more of this for sure. But thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you, Team SPI, for being here and being on the panel with me today. And go out and conquer. You got a lot of great things and a lot of people to serve, and they need you. So keep going and keep telling those stories. Thank you, everybody. You're amazing. Enjoy the day.
Congrats, everybody. Thanks for hanging.
Bye.
All right. I believe that means